911 emergency.
Life is good in South Kitsap, but when homes and lives are at stake, every second counts. And so, the need for a professional, well-equipped fire district for the residents of South Kitsap.
The mission of South Kitsap Fire and Rescue is to provide fire and emergency services to the citizens of South Kitsap. South Kitsap Fire and Rescue covers 117 square miles at the south end of Kitsap County. Having fire stations in strategic location to meet the demands of our public is very important. The challenge for today for South Kitsap Fire and Rescue is to put our stations in strategic locations to meet the demands of our increased call volume in areas of our fire district.
In its mission to protect homes, lives, and businesses, South Kitsap Fire and Rescue depends on continued support from our local community.
South Kitsap Fire and Rescue is primarily funded by two levies by the citizens, fire and EMS. As the fire chief for South Kitsap, financial responsibility is my #1 priority. And maintaining the public's trust with your finances is critical. And being stewards of that is something that we have to do as a public agency. We passed a bond in 2015, and that bond was for equipment and apparatus to replace our aging fleet. In 2015, with the apparatus equipment bond, we worked hard as stewards of the public funds. We completed that project with apparatus and equipment on time and under budget. We have great personnel, we have top-of-the-line equipment, and now our next phase of our strategic plan is the facilities.
So one of the things we're struggling with now is the location of our stations being in the wrong location for our current response patterns. The building construction is not up to current standards, and they were never meant to house firefighters 24 hours a day.
One of the main issues is the size of the stations. Currently, they were constructed back in the early 60s. Apparatus were smaller.
There's more equipment that we carry. The bays are really quite small. The garage doors in the cinder block building aren't tall enough for some of the rigs.
So several of the stations we're finding out through call volume and statistics that they're not really in the right locations.
Modern fire service, we have a lot of gear that we have to bring with us. We have different people that are assigned to different job assignments. There's not a lot of room to get gear on, to do training.
Some of the stations, in addition to being in a poor location, are just not built on good ground with good soil for septic systems and having water. One of the stations, specifically Station 9, the septic system has failed and requires a pretty significant upgrade.
This bond will improve the fire stations that were built back in the 1960s that were made out of cinder block, that in the event of a major earthquake they would collapse, and this will bring them up to the standards or replace those stations and bring them to standards that we need to maintain continuity during a major disaster.
To meet the future needs of South Kitsap, the fire chief and team have developed a strategic facilities plan that is the basis of a $39.5 million capital bond that goes before the voters this fall. The new facility plan includes constructing 3 new stations, eliminating select, obsolete, and inefficient stations, making seismic upgrades to remaining stations, rebuilding the headquarters public safety campus, which includes the Emergency Operations Center, as well as administrative facilities and fleet services.
Kitsap 911 reporting.
In both fire and emergencies, when you dial 911, seconds count every single time. The goal of operations with this bond is to make sure that our stations are in strategic locations that when you call 911, we are there within seconds.
Through this plan, South Kitsap Fire will be fully equipped to handle increasing call volume for the next 50 years. The facilities bond will begin just as the apparatus bond ends. The cost to taxpayers will increase from the current 10 cents per $1,000 assessed value to 17 cents. The cost increase for the owner of a $300,000 home will be approximately $21 per year or $1.75 a month for a 20-year period.
We want to thank Chief Wright for putting together this measure and having it ready for us prior to his retirement. Despite COVID-19 and the delays and the setbacks that we've had here at South Kitsap and in our community, as the new fire chief, I'm committed to seeing this project through. Our emergency response personnel, firefighters, EMTs, paramedics depend on your support to provide the best service. Thank you.
You can learn more about our strategic facilities plan and the facilities bond measure coming up on the ballot this November by visiting our website. Thank you for your support of our great communities in South Kitsap.